But today I have a very special guest with me in the chair. He is probably the second most recognized face in OnPassive after our CEO, and he really is a legend to us all. He is an amazing guy. I've known him for a very long time now. We're going to talk about that. And he has done so much for our business in one way, shape, or form. He's got the biggest heart of anybody that I know within OnPassive. And it really is my pleasure to bring in to the chair Mr. Marty DeGarmo. Marty, how are you?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm happy as a lark. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you very much. And thank you for uh, allowing me to ask you to come in the chair. It's going to be very interesting to find out a little bit about you. And as a bonus, we've also got Mr. Chris Johnson. He's coming in the chair as well on Friday. So there's no getting away for anybody today. So, as always, Marty, the chair's all about finding out a little bit more about you. Now, as I said earlier, uh, I do know you from before OnPassive, but before we get into that, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, where you're from, and your family members, and what work you did before you retired or
All
stopped working.
righty. I'll try to be quick. You know how I am. I'm going to be quick.
You don't have
I
to be
was
quick, mate.
born in Kansas, believe it or not, with Dorothy and Toto. I don't remember it. I was only a little kid. We traveled a lot. My father was in the military. He was in the Army for 20 years. Um, then we moved all over. We wound up in New Jersey. Fort Dix is the base he was stationed at before he retired. I had five brothers and sisters. Um, I had three brothers and two sisters. The oldest brother was Earl. Uh, he was killed in Vietnam in 1968. He was a ranger in the Army. Um, a second oldest brother was Michael Ray DeGarmo. Sad enough, he was killed in a car accident 2 years later. He was also 20 years old. And then my last brother, well, 8 years difference. My mom and dad had kind of like two families. Had the first three boys, and then later had two girls, and then or one girl, me, and another girl. And Dave, my brother, I was closest to in age. He passed away in '98. He had a heart attack. But all of we were a very close family. Like I said, we lived in a house that really couldn't hold that many people. My dad was about 5'8", and all my brothers are 6 foot tall. I'm 6'3". I used to be 6'3". I'm probably 6'2" now. Um, and then I went to school everywhere around here. Never took a bus. Everything was close enough. I graduated in 1978. Uh, Barely got by in school. I was bored to death. I hated school. Sorry about that. Probably not good for the kids to hear this. But then I started working right away. In fact, I worked at 16. And I went to school at the same time. They had a special program, so I worked in the morning, went to school in the afternoon. When I graduated, I went into a company that my brother was working for, and they made copper foil for the circuit board industry. I went there in 1978 in the summer, and then in '79 there was a probation. They kept me full time, and I worked from there. I worked there from '79 to 2004. Um, I was a GMO5, which is general maintenance. I was the gopher, go get this, go get that. Then I was a machine operator. Then I was a lead man. Then I wound up I was a union representative, shop steward. And then I became supervisor of the company. And then I became a manager. Then I became a department manager. And then the company was shut down in 2001 uh, because of competition around the world. We just could not make the, the product cheap enough to compete. And that has to do with the way you started, right? Companies build, the newer companies built for efficiency, and we didn't. So anyway, but we had the technology, thank God. So when they shut down in 2001, they kept five of us, me and 4 other guys, and we traveled around the world. Um, selling technology, building the equipment. Then I would go in, start the equipment, and train the employees. And I did this all over the place. I loved it. It wasn't real good for family though, because my kids were just getting into high school and all that. It was kind of a nightmare. And I used to have to stand on the hill in Russia so I could get on a cellular phone that ran off of uh, a satellite phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I look back now, and a certain time, and we were 12 hours ahead or something. It was a nightmare, but you could communicate. But I loved that. Well, then I wound up I had sleep apnea for a year and didn't know it. So I did some damage to my lungs. And then I got out of that, and they told me you're going to be out of work for a while. I got out of work, and they kept testing me and goes, you're going to be out of work forever. I'm like, oh, that's great. So I wound up on disability, and I said, what the heck?
And
So
how old were you then, Marty?
I was 42 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my life was, I'm not going to sit around. This was working okay. Well, at least I thought. And that's where I jumped into online work. So if you want to go from there, I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, it's a good stopping place, isn't it? Is that you know, in life, curveballs come your way, and it's how you deal with them that make the difference. And obviously, you know, you've already said that you loved your work, you loved the travel, even though it was not very good for family and all the rest of it. And obviously, you wanted to support your family in any way you could. So let's talk about you getting into online business or work or whatever you want to call it. Just talk us through those really, really early days of the sort of things that you were doing in those early days in 2004 and around about there, because that was early days, wasn't it, as far as the internet was concerned? You know, 20 odd years ago now. So just talk to us a little bit about those.
Okay. Facebook had just started, right? It was another name. I don't know what it was called. Uh, Whatever. It was nothing yet. I got on and I was looking. Now, remember, I left something that I really loved. So I thought this can't be my peak. Right, I'm 42. I figured I got a lot more to do. So I went online and I said, I see people are making money online. A lot of email stuff because email's starting to crank it up. Wasn't a whole lot of, you could get away with almost anything. They didn't have what you call spam and all that. I mean, they did, but they weren't pushing it like they do now. So I got in a business, can't even tell you which one, and started looking at what I thought I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. I didn't know who they were, but whoever they were, we called them the gurus, and they would tell you, just do what I'm doing, or she would say it. And I tried, and then I realized, well, how am I going to get traffic? Well, years ago, they had a thing called traffic exchanges and safe list and solo ads. So me, brainiac, I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a traffic exchange. So I bought one. I bought the script, then I hired somebody to help me make it, got all the stuff for it, had a few thousand people on it. It was a full-time job to run it, and there's no money in it. So I'm kind of defeating the purpose. Anyway, as time went on, I realized there's always something missing. First, it was you start to know the company and they disappear overnight. The next one you get in, you got to get people, you got to recruit. So I went to the family and friends, and some of them joined me. They know me. They knew I still meant it. No, we'll do fine. And I realized I can't even do fine. I mean, when you celebrate that you broke even, that's not a good thing. And most of the people with me didn't even break even. So I went, man, I got to know more. I need to learn more. I'm missing something. And the ugly thing about MLM or drop shipment is every time you learn something and you flip that rock over, and Red knows what I mean, you find another something you didn't know you didn't know. Oh
Yeah.
crap. Well, you gotta get traffic. How? Well, you could buy it. Okay. Now let's remember, we all got in this to make money. and I'm losing money, and I'm already making less money because I'm on disability. I'm barely surviving. So that went on. You buy traffic, it's garbage. You might get a couple more people. The problem is momentum is never going. Everybody riles you up, but a couple of days later, you find yourself, reality is, I can't bring in people quick as they would quit. And why are they quitting? They're not making any money, same as me. Only difference was I was bullheaded, and I said, no, if it's working, we got to find out how to make it work. Time went on, 4 or 5 years, and so I got to learn how to drive traffic, like actual pay for it, and learn how to drive it. So I got into Facebook, and they had a thing called lead ads, and I started doing them, and months went by. No good. Facebook would say, nope, you can't have that ad. Nope, you can't use those words. Then you get it, you get a business, you start doing it, the company folds. So all the branding you did disappeared. This went on a long time. Well, most of you know this. Then I ran into Mike Ellis and Dan Street. Mike first, then Dan.
What sort of time of when was this, and what year did you meet Dan and Mike?
I think I ran into them 2013, 2014, 10, 11 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
But I also realize I have a judgment of time is horrible, because I know now that we did crypto 7 years ago. It doesn't feel like that to me. So it could be longer than that, but something like that.
Yeah.
And we found out. So we're all looking. I knew at that point, I'm looking for OnPassive. I'm looking for something like that, because I can't get people to duplicate what I'm doing. That's a lie. They lied to all of us. They did it to everybody. Not on purpose. I think they meant it. Some of them meant it. Yeah, do what I'm doing, but it's impossible. And the thing about learning to market is it changes all the time. It's a moving target. What worked I hear people go, I made 7-figure income in 2000.
Yeah.
Good luck. It's a different world. What you did then may not work now. Anyway, so I got where we could drive traffic, and we could drive pretty good. I mean, we could build teams of thousands wherever we went. Problem is, it always went back to, what is the company, who's running the company, and are they honest? And the answer is no, sometimes no, and never. Okay, it was always negative. And I met Red and Peter and a few other people in another business before this one.
That must have been, I think, 2015, I reckon, or 2016. About 2016, I think it probably was.
We were in a couple different ones, I believe.
Yeah.
And we went in, and me, a good student, and the last one, I followed the guy, everything he said. Red took off. Peter took off because they were smarter than me. Mike goes, we got to go, man. You're not learning anything here. So we left, and that was 2019, well, the end of 2018. And I started looking around, and I never really looked. When I did something, I was dedicated. I didn't look at anything else. And I remember Red and Peter I saw first. I said, what are you doing? And he started telling me about OnPassive and what the game plan was, or what they thought it might be. And I went, whoa. But I found out Red's there too, because they work together all the time too. We got together, we met, what's this about? But then we asked a bunch of questions, and off to the races. And then since I've been in OnPassive, obviously, I don't think of anything else. I don't have any anxiety of what might be going on or whatnot. I don't like what's going on. I know it's not good, but I know one thing, that we have someone working for us harder than we would, and I work pretty damn hard, and that's a pretty cool thing to say. And I met a lot of people like Red and Jane. I've known Red, like I said, for years. In fact, I remember coming in, and Red was somewhere, and I got a hold of him because we were starting to do more video type stuff. Mike had already started, and I said, Red, get your butt out here, man. Yeah.
In fact, it was actually Marty who was the one, is the guy who said, listen, you've got a bit of character about you. You need to start doing some videos. And this was actually before OnPassive, because the last person, or the last business that we were doing together, it had all the hallmarks of teaching us some really important lessons for online entrepreneurship, marketing, whatever you want. If the way that it was set up and structured made an awful lot of sense. And to be fair to the guy, he had put an awful lot of work into putting this structure together to teach people what they needed to do. But it's always the same thing, isn't it? The proof is in the pudding. And unfortunately, he wasn't a very good baker. And he kept on promising. We kept obviously paying on a monthly basis for his expertise, and we were getting nowhere. And after getting nowhere, you start standing back and thinking, well, hang on a minute, something's not adding up. Even though the advice and the teachings he was giving us helped an awful lot, it certainly didn't help us in the way that we wanted to financially. So I left, and then the rest is history, what Marty's saying. So let's bring this back round to OnPassive. And I can remember when we had those first meetings, Marty, and myself and Peter, well, mainly Peter Rogers, was telling you about OnPassive. What were your thoughts about this business in those early days, in late 2018, early 2019?
Well, a normal person would be jaded and not trust anything. My thing is, you have to be brand new wherever you go. If you keep holding on to bad things that happen, you'll never move forward. I knew what I wanted. I did it long enough. I knew what I wanted. And when Peter, and then when I met Red and Peter together, and we met, a lot of boxes were checked, as Red would say. Like, you don't have a monthly payment out of your pocket. If it's running right, they'll take it out of your profits. And I went, whoa. The structure will be this and this and this and everything, and we're global. For me, yes, I can travel. I can knock on doors. I could do, but you have the internet. Let's use it. As built through all of us, $1 billion company, and you don't have to leave home. Not really. If you use the internet to its fullest. And I love that idea. And here's the main thing. And Red said this one time before we even got here. I tell you what, I'm not doing another business that doesn't have viable products we can buy, and you own it, and then you even if you got to rebuy it every month. And I agreed 100%. I don't want pie in the sky. I never wanted that. And then I thought, after they told me how much is it, no kidding, Peter said 97, and I'm thinking $970. Ooh, that's going to be rough. But come to find out, it was $97. And then I went the other way. I went, why is he doing it so cheap? See, I'm thinking very small. And I'm a big thinker, but I was thinking small, knowing what I know now, that $97, why would he do that? It makes it sound like maybe it's not worth. But then when you hear global, and I get my big ass out of New Jersey and realize that most of the world, that's who he was talking to. That's who the payment was for. It would be very difficult for most of the world to pay it, but they could. They could at least get skin in the game. That made sense to me. Eventually, I started to get, this isn't a focus on US or UK or Canada. It's focused on everybody in the world. And then I remember at that point, somehow I wanted to talk to Ash, because just like Red, I know we could get people to see it. But I really got a bad taste about burning people. Even though you can bring them in, I mean, if you could be cold-hearted and everybody's a number, okay, but that part bothered me. But once we did meet with him, and I found out who he is, and I believed him, that's a big deal. The rest is history.
So let me ask you then, Marty. Obviously, this is really interesting to listen to you talk about what you saw in OnPassive and all the rest of it. But I did know from a very early point that one of your goals was certainly to actually meet Ashmi Farah virtually face to face in the best context. So, can you sort of tell us in your own words, why do you think that you and him get on so well? What is your connection, do you think, that you have with Ashmi Farah?
Trust and loyalty. One of the main. There was a couple instances that went on, and I would see people kind of try to manipulate situations, whether he's there or not, because he's a kind-hearted guy. And I'm a kind-hearted person, but I've got a few rough edges. And listen, if you talk about me, it's one thing, but you talk about someone I like Red, like Ash, like anybody I know, like Chris, yeah, I mess with Chris. If you don't know him, I don't want you to. That's just it. But I saw his heart, and I related to what he was saying, I guess. And most of the time in the beginning, when we talked, it wasn't about business. He wanted to know family and all that. We got talking, and he became a friend, and he's a friend of everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It really wasn't planned that way. It was more of I was there, and then like you read, I dove in. I've never done anything a little. When I smoked too much. When I drank too much. When I worked too much. But this is something that it covers every base I ever wanted. My old business and then now. I loved working with people. That's when I traveled around. I met people in Japan and UK and France and Luxembourg. I went to Taiwan, and I found that everybody I met, besides management or government, we all want the same thing. And when I realized this platform that Ash was building for all of us, it blew me away. How could I not fall in love with the guy? I mean, there's no hidden agenda. I mean, he says what he means what he says. And when he said the other day, the happiest day he saw in all of OnPassive, since we've all been in, and Red's over 6 years, is the day he started paying people. I knew when that bubbled and fell, without a doubt, that was devastating for Ashmi Farah. Because one of the first conversations we had, and Red knows this, is paying. Nobody wants to pay more than Ash. He would pay and not receive money. By the way, he's not making money on OnPassive. Zero. I mean, down the road, I hope he does. I mean, that's why you do it. But his whole outlook was about people. And that's what turned me on to him and his wife. His wife is amazing because she's getting beat up just like he is. And it's a great family. And and he cares. Like we have some issues. There's nobody here now. We adopted our grandchildren, and they have social issues, especially the older girl, because she's a teenager. And we sent her to counseling. And the biggest person that helped her was Red and Jane's daughter, without a doubt. To this day, if she has an issue, she'll call her. No joke, because she could relate. She was in that area. I don't know, and I'm a grandfather, so she'll relate, but not the same with somebody that knows, and it's a big deal. So, yeah, I mean, it's all about people. And with Ash, if I didn't know him in OnPassive, I would definitely be as close a friend as I am now, without a doubt.
I know that especially many of us who are the loudspeakers, I suppose, of OnPassive, our thought process and drive is not necessarily about how much money we can make and all the rest of it. We do what we do because we genuinely want to help the business and help as many people out there by doing what we're doing. So let me ask you, Marty, what dreams and goals have you got for your own personal family around you that you want to achieve with OnPassive?
That's probably the hardest question you asked the whole time. I want to get out of. Shut up. I want to get out of debt. I don't want to think about money, Red. That's my main goal. I don't want to think about it. If the car breaks down, I can fix it. If I get in a store and somebody needs cash and they're embarrassed because they're digging in a purse and they know there's nothing in there, to pay the way without them even knowing, because I believe you can bless people right outside your door. That would be phenomenal for me. But a big deal, I didn't realize how much a big deal, even though I do talk to Ass sometimes, God's honest truth. I talk to him about everyone here.
Yeah.
I hated LC. I helped. I mean, I was involved with some people they picked, but what I didn't like about it is some people took it too far here, and they let go of this. Right? We're here to serve. The biggest server in the company is Ash. Why do I need to be a general? It doesn't make sense. Listen. Everybody knows who Red is, no matter what bars he has on his shoulder, or if he has stars. Same for me. You know who I am? That's why Shine the Light or In the Chair. We're pointing out to other people, because I've met a lot of cool people, I'm telling you. And I always, even in a webinar for the last 5 years, I would text Ash. This lady would come on. Oh, this lady's phenomenal. She this, and this. Just to give them an idea, because me and Red and Chris and other people are everywhere. So I get a glimpse at people ahead of time. But I feel, for me personally, and I believe Red does too, and I know a lot of people do, is the more people we push to the top, the stronger the core, the stronger the core, the stronger the business, the stronger the core. Yeah. Without a doubt. Like when we first got in, we said, let's get to know people. This was very small thinking, all right, because I didn't know what the company was going to do. But we built OnPassive Nation because I want them to know who I am. Now, let me tell you something. In most business and MLM, and Red knows, you may not want people to know who you are. Why? Because it could crash and burn in a week. No, really, Red. If something happened now, God forbid, and it won't, because Ash will never give up, they're going to come back and look at people they see. But in this case, everybody sees Ash Smith-Barr. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. My goals are get debt free. I would like Dawn to have a better life because she's raised 2 families now. We've adopted a boy years ago, and it's only she's hustling. She has to go take Shorty to the doctor to get a physical, and then she's got to run him back, and it's special stuff going on. All 3 of them see people to talk to. Jaden had some anger issues. It all has to do with when people decide to not be good parents. Kids suffer. The kids
absolutely
suffer. Right.
Well, I have to say what you've done personally, looking after your grandkids and bringing them into your family, really truly is inspiring to so many people, Marty, because it is, especially at your ages, it is something that is done without a shadow of doubt out of love. Because it's certainly not something you particularly want to be doing, but they're your flesh and blood. So I actually take my hat off to you for doing what you've done, and it really does show the true character of Marty DeGarmo and Dawn, that they are doing what they're doing. So Marty, just to close this out, what closing words have you got for everybody moving forward in OnPassive, and where you think things are going to go as far as the business is concerned?
Well, I've said this a long, long time ago. About a year ago, less than a year, 9 months ago. I felt something wasn't quite right. I might have said something to Red or whatever. I didn't like certain things. And then with this going on and hearing that there was some issues that were very bad, I thought, now that makes sense. What I felt, what I thought about, that made sense. And I did not know. I believe this, and I've said this in the beginning. I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it a few more times. Who knows? Amazon created 40,000 millionaires. And I'm going to get financial just for a minute. And it's not about money, because my thing, the money's there. If you look at the ingredients and you get all the ingredients and it says it's a cake, it's a freaking cake. If you have the ingredients of OnPassive and the leader like Mr. Mufara, it equals wealth. I believe OnPassive will produce more millionaires than any company that ever existed on the planet. Because of the design. Shut up! Shut up! Oh my God. Shut up! God, I'll be quick. But that's what I believe. But I also believe we're all very, very fortunate. But I also think the people that told you no, they'll be in. And there's other people out there waiting for OnPassive because they need it. Socially, financially, give them a leg up, because everybody deserves a better life. And I think you can't rely on government, nor should we. We could be our own government, our own resources, and help one another. And if everybody can take care of themselves and has excess or abundance to take care of others, this will be the most powerful company, most impactful company in the world. And you should thank God that you're part of it. I believe that with all my heart. I think every day, my gosh, I'm so fortunate to be here. No matter what we tripped over or fell down, because in my vision, somebody's walking through the ambers and smoke and flames, and when he comes out, it's Ash Mufara. He could have ran. A normal person would have ran. I can't do anymore, but he didn't. Anyway, that's how I feel.
Absolutely, Marty. You're very wise words, and you're absolutely right. More than ever, people need OnPassive. They might not realize it just yet, but when they see it, certainly will.